Hello and welcome to yet another episode of the British Culture Podcast, where we talk about all things British, basically. Today, I'm joined by a very special guest. This is Finn. Finn, if you would like to just introduce yourself quickly to everybody.
Hi everyone. Hi James. Yeah, thank you for having me on the show. It's quite nice being called a special guest. But yeah, I'm Finn. I'm an English teacher, also from the UK. I was just saying to James before we started how I'm from Cornwall, and right now we're having a heat wave, so it's quite crazy down here. There's a lot of chaos going on, a lot of people, a lot of visitors, and chaos on the country lanes. I don't know if that's really a summary of me, but that's the morning I've had today.
Well, yeah, Finn, you are a special guest. That's what you are. So I think it's the right word. So thanks for coming on. And the topic of today's podcast is going to be British game shows. Okay. One of the most common things that British people watch probably are game shows, right? Game shows are pretty popular in the UK, I would say. And there are some game shows which are really classically British. Like these kind of game shows either don't exist anywhere else in the world, or like the original game show was from the UK and then it spread to other countries. I guess, Finn, I suppose my first question to you would probably be, I will ask you, what is your favorite, like classically British game show? What would be like your favorite one, I guess?
So my favorite one would be catchphrase. Now that you're saying about typically British, I'm not 100% sure if it is extremely British or if it's originally British, but it's something, or it's a show that has been on in the UK for a very long time. I'm not sure if it's still running actually, but I remember when I used to watch it all of the time, I remember seeing on my social media clips from when the show started. And you know, when you watch or when you see a show from a long, long time ago and it just looks really old and bad quality and the hosts are really young compared to what they are now. So catchphrase was one of those. And to be fair, it would be very good for English learners as well. So James, I think you said you weren't quite sure which one it was, but it's the one where on the screen there's a little animation that is kind of acting out a phrase, a catchphrase or an idiom, something like that, and the contestants have to guess. They have to press the buzzer and be the first one to press the buzzer so that they can guess the catchphrase. So it might be something. For some reason, this one always stays in my memory, but it was a pub crawl, and the animation was literally a building that was obviously a pub crawling along the ground. So things like that. But James, did you say you weren't too familiar with that one?
Like I vaguely remember this show. Like when I was a kid, I think it was still on. I don't. Is it still running now, or is it just an old game show?
I'm not sure. I remember it was still running. Oh, to be fair, that was probably like 10 years ago. Yeah, so I'm not sure if it's still running now, but it was quite modern, and they had a lot of modern celebrities on it when I used to watch it.
I remember I used to like it as a kid. I vaguely remember, and it does sound like it could be a good thing for English learners to watch. So you guys watching are probably around the B2 upper intermediate level. Maybe you could go and check out some old episodes of the game show Catchphrase, and you can learn some new expressions. That sounds good. Another good one that comes to mind, actually, also for English learners, would be Countdown. Right, like to me, if I had to choose one game show which I think is like typically British, it would have to be Countdown, right? So Countdown is a very simple concept, really, and each contestant is given a selection of letters. What is it, like 10 letters, 9 letters, something like that?
Yeah,
And
9, I think.
9 letters, right? And you need to try and make the longest word possible with these 9 letters. Usually people manage to find words of like 5 or 6 letters, right? Like I think if you get if you have 9 letters given to you at random and you make a word, you have 1 minute, right? And you have the famous countdown music. How does the music go again? I can't really remember the song. Da 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 boom, like this.
Yeah,
And
that's
then
it,
you and then you know your time is up. But yeah, I would say most people manage to get 5 or 6 letter words. But every now and again, somebody will take those 9 letters and make a word with like 7 or 8 letters, and you're like, wow, how did they possibly do that? Yeah, so countdown has been around for a long time. I mean, must be since before I was born, I think. I think the show was on in the 80s and stuff. Finn, are you a fan of Countdown? What do you think?
Yeah, so I've watched a lot of 8 out of 10 Cats does Countdown, which is kind of like I don't know what you would call it. I guess it's like a spin-off in a way, but it's like a comedy version where comedians and other celebrities go on, and it's all about comedy. They still do everything, but the focus is on comedy rather than actually trying to be serious and and winning it. So I don't think I've ever watched the real or the original Countdown.
You've never watched the original Countdown, is that right?
It's been on in the background, but I've never sat down in order to watch it, if that makes sense. So I have seen it, but I don't really have a memory of sitting down to watch it and play it.
Yeah, I think you're right. I don't think I've ever purposefully taken time out of my day to go and sit down and say, hey, everyone, Countdown's on. Turn off, close the door, let's watch Countdown. This has never happened. It's always just on in the background, usually at around like 5 o'clock or 4 o'clock, right? Something like that. Countdown also has a maths section as well, where you are given, I think you're given like 6, you have a number that you need, like at the top, like 789. And then you are given like 6 or 7 other numbers. And you need to take those 6 or 7 other numbers, and you can use addition, you can use subtraction, you can use multiplication, and you can use division with those 6 or 7 numbers. And your goal is to try and make the exact number that's at the top. So the number may be 879, and you are given 7 numbers at random, and you need to use those 7 numbers to make 789, and the one who wins gets the closest possible. Have you ever tried to do these maths sections on Countdown? Is this something you've done or no?
Yeah, I always try to do it. Like I say, with the comedy one, they still actually play the game, so I always try to do it. I'm not very good. There's a reason I'm an English teacher and not a maths teacher. I can do the relatively simple ones, but yeah, I don't get it very often. What about you? Are you good at the maths ones?
Absolutely not. In fact, in a video that I made just a couple of weeks ago, I told everyone that the cathedral that I was standing in front of was more than 1,000 years old. And that was not correct at all. It was about 890 years old or something, and the maths I did in my head was completely wrong. And lots of you guys commented below the video telling me that my maths was wrong. So thank you so much. Can you think of any other game shows which are typically British? What else comes to mind for you?
So one that I saw yesterday, I wasn't watching it. I was waiting for the football to be played. We were in the pub, and on the screen they were showing Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and it's quite funny. The modern one has Jeremy Clarkson as the host, who I would have never thought in a million years would be the host of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. but it was him, and the contestant was Joe Marler, the ex-rugby player who has a very unique personality, let's say. So it's a show that I would always stereotypically think of as very serious, very serious and very intense. And then it has these two on it, which is quite funny. But I think, yeah, back in the day, it used to be a lot more. Not that it's not serious now, but I think the hosts and the contestants used to be a lot more serious.
Yeah, so with Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, you basically, it's a normal quiz show, and the presenter, who used to be a guy called Chris Tarrant, I believe, which has changed now. They would ask you questions, and the questions would get progressively more difficult as the show went on. The contestant is given 3 lifelines. They call them 3 lifelines. The first one is phone a friend, meaning that you can call anybody that you like and ask them for help with the question. The second one is 50-50, because usually there are 4 possible answers. It's multiple choice questions. And if you choose the lifeline 50-50, it takes away 2 possible wrong answers. And the last one is ask the audience. And that is where they put the question to the audience, and the audience will vote on what they think is the correct answer. And then the contestant can see what the audience thinks is the correct answer, and then they can decide. Yeah, it was a lot more serious. I mean, I remember watching it as a teenager and as a kid, I think. And I remember the first guy ever to win the £1 million was a really big deal. He was like the first person to ever make it to the very end. It was really good. I think the funny thing is with Who Wants to Be a Millionaire is sometimes when people use one of the lifelines, like when you take 50-50, for example, sometimes the contestant is not sure between two different answers. They're like, is it A or could it be D? Like, I don't know, it's either A or D, so I will choose 50-50 to help me out. And then 50-50 will happen, and it will remove the other 2 answers, the one B and C. The ones they knew were not the correct answer. Now they're left with the only 2 they weren't sure about. And of course, sometimes people use the phone a friend lifeline, and they call up their friend, and their friend tells them what they think is the answer, and then it turns out to be the wrong answer. And you can always imagine that must be like really, it must be really awkward when they return home and see their friend again, and their friend gave them the wrong answer on the phone. And the last one is, usually the best lifeline in Who Wants to Be a Millionaire is ask the audience, right? Because that one is usually the most reliable. But like once in a blue moon, the contestant will ask the audience, and the audience will actually get it wrong. So the contestant will ask the audience, and the audience will say, they will vote, and they will say it's D. And then the contestant chooses D, and it turns out to be the wrong answer. And everybody in the audience was actually wrong. Another really well-known show in the UK is Deal or No Deal. I don't know if this show exists anywhere except the UK. Have you seen this show, Finn? Have you ever watched Deal or No Deal before?
Yeah, I did when I was younger, but I don't really remember it. I think I was quite young when I last saw it. But yeah, I haven't seen it in any other country or in any other language or anything like that.
I think probably the reason it isn't around in other countries is because it's actually a really dumb show. Basically, there's one person, there are like 20 red boxes around the outside of the studio or whatever, and the contestant needs to choose each box one by one, and they can choose any of the red boxes, and there are lots of different amounts of money on the board, and basically inside the contestant also has their own red box, and inside their red box is an amount of money. It could be £1, it could be £250,000. They don't know what is in their box. And the thing, I guess, which can make the show kind of interesting is you also have the character of the banker. And every now and again, the banker will call the contestant. There's a phone in the middle of the studio, and it will ring. And then the presenter, Noel Edmonds, the presenter, will pick it up and answer the phone. And the banker will make offers to the contestant. Yeah, it's a good show, except it is really ridiculous because the entire show is just based on luck. Like, there is zero skill involved in that show. And the funny thing is that the contestants will always have like these little superstitions, these little theories about what they think is in each box. They'll be like, I think that box has 10p in it, and I think that box has 100,000 in it because that's the number 22, and 22 is my lucky number, so I'm going to choose 22. And they all have these little theories about like which box they should choose, and really it's just a game of luck, basically. Moving on, Finn, because obviously you haven't watched Deal or No Deal. Have you ever watched University Challenge before? And if you haven't watched it, do you know about this game show?
Yeah, so I do know about it. Again, I don't think I've I haven't seen many of these game shows, have I? Again, I've seen it kind of on in the background, but I've never watched it properly. But I'm familiar with it, and I've seen a couple of people that I follow on Instagram have been on it as well.
Oh, right. Okay. And what do you know about University Challenge? You said you're aware of it. So what do you know about it?
Yeah, I know that it's these different teams that are against each other, like I guess a knowledge battle in a way. And judging by the fact it's University Challenge, I know that they have the names of different universities. So is it current students or like ex-students, like alumni that go and compete for their university teams? Is that right? Or is it current students? Or
to be honest, I'm not really sure. I mean, I always assumed that it was current students, but I don't know. It could be people who graduated from the university before. I honestly don't know.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I can't really remember, but yeah, it's kind of, again, it's like the speed, isn't it? They'll ask a question and then is there a buzzer as well? Or are there certain types of rounds? I can't really remember.
Yeah, like I'm not a massive fan of the show, but they do have a buzzer. And you're right that it's different universities in the UK competing against each other. I would say that it's a very highbrow show, right? Like it's kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of a very highbrow. All of the questions are incredibly difficult. And if you are watching this right now and you think that you're a smart person, you think you're really intelligent, go and watch an episode of University Challenge, and by the end of the show, you will feel like an utter moron because the questions are extremely difficult. And generally, when I watch University Challenge, out of like 60 or 70 questions, I may know the answer to like 2 or 3. Like 3 would be a good day for me. It's very highbrow, I would say, about University Challenge, yeah. I guess I will ask you then, as you may not have watched some of these shows, which game shows do you watch? Like, what is a game show that you actually watch fairly regularly, would you say?
Well, there is The Chase as well. That's one that I haven't mentioned yet. That is one that I've seen a few times where they have different, I forget what they call them, but they have, I think it's a group of maybe 5 kind of really intelligent people, and each episode they alternate between these intelligent people. They call them, the chaser. So basically the chaser is trying to catch up to the contestant. So they both have to answer questions, and they move up this board. So they're trying to reach the end of this board, and the contestant starts closer to the finish than the chaser does. And every question that they get right, they move 1 space up closer to the top of the board. So generally what happens is the contestants get fewer questions right than the chasers. So the chasers eventually catch up to the contestants, and then the contestants lose. But I remember, I think this one sticks in my mind quite a lot because the chasers are, I always find them really funny. They're always very unique characters because they're obviously hyper intelligent and they get everything right. And there's another famous guy that I don't know his name, but I see him on lots of different TV shows that does all of the fact checking and the research as well. Is the chase one that you've watched much, James?
I have seen it on. Like I think they are called The Chaser. And yeah, I've seen it. Like you've said a few times, it's not as though I'm a huge fan of the show and that I will stop everything I'm doing to go and watch it. It's the kind of thing that will be on. It's just on. And for some reason, somebody has left the TV on and the chase is on, and you just kind of see it. But yeah, I'm not a massive fan or anything like that.
Yeah, I think that's the thing with most of the TV shows, isn't it? Most of the game shows, especially these ones that aren't necessarily exciting, like they're there for you to test your knowledge, or to try and guess the phrase or build the word out of the letters, and it's fun, but it's not like exciting. You don't look forward to it in your day. It's just if it's on, you'll get distracted by it, and you'll happily kind of follow along and participate.
It's really, we are discovering with this podcast that I don't know if people really love game shows. It's just the kind of thing that's just like mildly interesting, and if it's on, you might watch like 10 minutes of it. And that's it. That actually reminds me of another game show that's on. Have you ever watched Tipping Point before or no?
Is that the one where they have the coins that are like falling over the edge? And I'm guessing that's the tipping point. Yeah, like kind of the arcade sort of game style, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. Have you ever watched a full episode of Tipping Point before?
Not that I can remember. I remember seeing bits of it, but yeah, I don't think I've watched a full episode.
Yeah, it's basically another game. While University Challenge is obviously a very highbrow game show with like really difficult questions, Tipping Point is the kind of game that honestly, like a monkey could play it. Like all you need to do is just say, where do you want to draw? Actually, no, there are questions as well, I think, in Tipping Point, aren't there? There are general knowledge questions, I think, also. But you need to drop one of these discs in, and you have to choose which section you want to drop it in. And it is really basic, but yes, I do think there are also general knowledge questions in that. So I think probably my last question would be, why do you think British people like game shows? Is it like something that British people are really into? And why do people watch game shows? That's my question to you.
I think in the past it was more popular. I might be wrong, I don't know, but I feel like in the past it was something that was a bit more, I don't know, because it's very civilized in a way, isn't it? Doing these kind of general knowledge questions or these quizzes all about your intelligence. It's like a very civilized thing to do, isn't it? And if it's just on the TV, and because I guess back in the day you didn't really have much choice in what you watched. You just had the live TV channels, and there were only so many, so your choice was often limited. And the game show, if you didn't like anything else that was on, was probably the most fun thing to watch. And I guess you can play along with your friends or your family or whatever as well. But I think maybe nowadays it's not as popular, and I think some of the comedy spin-offs and kind of comedy panel shows are a little bit more popular.
Yeah, I think the older game shows definitely required a bit more intelligence than like the newer ones. Like University Challenge has been around for a long time, and Countdown is also quite old. And like these game shows required they were genuinely like a test of people's intelligence. And you're right that it was very civilized, like the entire atmosphere of the show would be like, welcome to University Challenge. Here we have Mr. Johnson and we have Mr. Stevens, or maybe on countdown, I'll be like, this is Mrs. Thompson and this is Mr. Johnson. Welcome everybody. It'd be very civilized. Whereas the newer game shows are like a lot of them are not really, well, I suppose it depends, because the Chaser one I think is not that easy, but it's like they've all been dumbed down a little bit, right? Like the newer shows like are really accessible. Sorry. They are really accessible to everybody, even people who maybe don't read very much and so on. They can just go. Would you say that game shows have been a little bit dumbed down over time? Would you say?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think saying dumbed down, it's correct, but it almost feels a bit harsh, because they were, like you say, in the past they were very difficult, and you did have very intelligent people playing them. So I think they've just it almost seems more fair to say that they've made them less difficult as opposed to more dumb. But yeah, I would definitely agree with that.
Yeah, I think you're right. When I watch some of the older game shows, it's like the questions are extremely difficult and the average person has no idea, including me, has no idea what the answers are. All right, so Finn, thank you for coming on the British Culture Podcast today. You do have a YouTube channel, is that right? Do you want to tell us a little bit about your channel?
Sure, yeah. So my channel is Finn Teaches English, and a lot of the videos I do are kind of vlog style, comprehensible input style, along with some other kind of random mix of different types of videos, but all English learning themed. So yeah, if if you're interested, come and follow along, and I don't know what to say. Please come and like my videos and subscribe, and hopefully you can learn a thing or two, and come and see different parts of the UK. I normally do videos in different places because I seem to be in different parts of the country nearly every week. So if you like to see the countryside a lot, then yeah, I would recommend my channel.
Nice. Yeah, I'll put the link to Finn's channel in the description, and I'll put a comment under the video with the link as well. Guys, thank you very much for watching the British Culture Podcast. We do have a lot more episodes of this podcast on EnglishSponge.com, where you can watch them all. There's lots of extra episodes that you can watch. And thank you for watching, guys. I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.